Okay, so we'll start with a little bit about Shavuot. Um, Shavuot is extraordinarily unique among all the holidays in three different ways. Um, One is that there's no date. Every other holiday has a date in the Torah. So it'll say on the 15th day of the seventh month, on the first day of the seventh month, on the 15th day of the first month. Those are the dates that are written in the Torah. And Shavuot, it doesn't say this. Shavuot, it says you will count for yourself, and the for yourself is very important. Um, 50 days, 7 complete weeks, and then you'll have Shavuot. Meaning, from the second day of Pesach, we count 49 days, which we all know is the Sfirat HaOmer, and then comes Shavuot. That's one of the unique things about Shavuot, is that there's no date. Instead, it's attached to counting 49 days. Second unique thing about Shavuot is that there's no mitzvah. There are certain mitzvot that were done in the Beit HaMikdash, and this year, with Hashem's help, will be done in the Beit HaMikdash. Hashem has to do it quickly now because it's almost Shavuot. And that is primarily some of the sacrifices, special sacrifices. And the most important was the Bikurim, the sacrifice of bringing the first fruits. The first fruits were brought on Shavuot. You would have a field, the farmer would have a orchard, and he would see the first fruits peeking out of the orchard. He would tie a ribbon around it or a string around it, and then he would bring those first fruits that he was so excited about as a thank you to Hashem, and he would give it to the Kohen. This was the another name for Shavuot is Chag HaBikurim. But aside from the practices in the Beit HaMikdash, there's no specific mitzvot of Shavuot. Rosh Hashanah, you have blowing the shofar. Sukkot, you have living in the sukkah and shaking the lulav and etrog. Pesach, you have all the mitzvot that we studied about. Shavuot, there's nothing. Nothing.
Listening to the commandments? No, I thought it was a mitzvah.
It's important. It's very important, as we're going to explain in a minute. But this is not a mitzvah from the Torah. That's a Torah obligation. It does not exist. There's nothing. There's nothing. So, so what is Shavuot then? There's no mitzvah, and there's not even a date. You know what I'm saying? It's quite it's peculiar, different than all the other holidays. Um, there is many customs, which we'll speak about in a moment, or I should say, there are many customs. Um, what is Shavuot celebrating? Shavuot celebrates receiving the Torah. Okay, let me give you a weird reality, and then we'll come back to what I'm saying. Um, it says count for yourself 49 days. Count for yourself 49 days in order to get to Shavuot. 49 days from Pesach until Shavuot. What happens if today I decide to get on an airplane and fly to Australia? And I fly in an eastward motion, moving, following the sun. I'm going to arrive in Australia tomorrow without any sunset. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So what happens? I'm still counting. Today was 48. I'm still counting 48. And in Australia, they're counting 49. So guess what? I celebrate Shavuot one day later than everybody in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, it's about you
it's
counting.
about you counting. And likewise, if I go the reverse way, no, if I'm going from Australia here and I go the eastward way, meaning I go from Australia to Los Angeles, and Los Angeles to here, they're going to celebrate Shavuot one day earlier than everybody here.
Don't fly on
Or fly the opposite way. But you're right, it's a real conclusion.
internet. Yeah.
It's a proper halachic question. What's
You
that?
can fly, but you're not to Australia. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the same.
Madrid won't be the same. Madrid is not a complete day different. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And Madrid won't be a complete day different. It's really only Australia. Some other places, a couple places, but really only Australia. Or you could fly the opposite way. If you fly the opposite way, in other words, then you'll hit the sunset. So if you go from Australia, if you go from Florida to Los Angeles to Australia, you go the westward trip to Australia, you're going to hit a sunset between. Or if you're from Australia, you go the eastward way, you'll hit a sunset in between. That will bring you to the same.
So this is only if you fly
The
Australia to where?
if you no either from here to Australia or Australia to here, but if you fly the same direction that the sun travels.
Same direction. Okay, okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, what this teaches us, one of the things this teaches us, one of the things this teaches us is that receiving the Torah is entirely personal. Getting the Torah is about you. Nobody else can do it for you, and nobody else, it's not a community event. We do community things, but receiving Torah is about my relationship with the Torah. It's not about anyone else's relationship. It's very personal.
So you don't have to go to shul.
I didn't really say that, but
No,
but you're right. In the end, you're right. Meaning, what do I mean you're right? You should go to shul. It's very important to go to shul, especially on the first day of Shavuot, first day, to hear the Ten Commandments. Very, very important.
Friday morning.
Friday morning. It's very important. But in order to receive the Torah, you don't have to do that. In other words, if you didn't go to shul on Friday morning, and the next day you woke up and say, I want to go study Torah, it's waiting for you. It's you and the Torah. I was telling my friend that I feel everything else in my life I could blame on everyone around me. I can say we don't have financial security because my wife spends too much money. I don't know. I can make stuff up. I can say the kids are driving us crazy because the kids are terrible or the school is terrible. I don't know. I can everything else in my life I could blame on the people around me. My Torah study, it's only me. That's why I don't like Torah so much because it's personal responsibility, completely personal. Nothing else, nothing stands between you. Now, how much Torah you could study? Of course, you have a business, you have children, you have other things to take care of. So you're right. There's certain things that stand in the way. But for those moments that you have and you choose to either study Torah or do something else, it's completely you. Nobody else told you to do something else. It's your decision. How deep you want to go into Torah, that's your decision. Everything about Torah is your decision. Very personal. That's 1.1. Point two is that there's no mitzvot because receiving the Torah, even though it's all about the mitzvot, the entire Torah is only a description of the mitzvot, but there's a relationship that a Jew has with the Torah that goes beyond the mitzvot. Meaning, there's a place where Hashem is teaching us and we connect to Him that's even above the particularities of any mitzvah. That doesn't mean that we're don't have to do the mitzvot. That's not what I'm suggesting. But I'm saying that our relationship with Hashem is even higher than the particulars of the mitzvot. Period.
I think if you don't stop the alarm.
No, it's ringing. That's somebody calling me.
Okay, okay, okay.
Um. So those two things are expressed in Shavuot. Is the level of connection a Jew has with Hashem that's even greater than the particulars of the mitzvot, and the fact that it's entirely personal. Let's go very quickly to, because I do want to get back into the Tanya. Last week we didn't do too much Tanya, but let's go quickly to some of the customs of Shavuot very quickly. There's 5 basic customs. The most important, without a doubt, by 20,000 times, I'm exaggerating, but is going to shul on Friday morning, especially with children, making sure that all the children in the neighborhood, all the children that you know, and especially your own children or grandchildren, all of them have to be in shul to hear the 10 Commandments. It's not just a matter of hearing the 10 Commandments, it's also true. It's also a matter of reenacting the receiving of the Torah. All the kids standing around Mount Sinai, which is today is that table over there, um, getting the Torah. That's what it's really about. It's about bringing the whole Jewish community together to reenact the receiving of the Torah 3,318, is it? I don't remember. Years ago. Okay, so that's number one. Custom one, very important. That is why in Chabad's and now other places have ice cream parties and all these things in order to entice the children and to try and get people to come and join to hear the reading of the Ten Commandments. Very, very important. Number two is people staying up all night to study Torah.
And
Yeah.
that's on
Thursday night,
Thursday.
first night of Shavuot. Some people actually have the custom to do both nights, but that's a very unusual custom to do both nights, to stay up both nights of Shavuot. But that's unusual. The basic custom is staying up all night. Primarily, the Torah that we are celebrating is not the written Torah; it's the oral Torah. So the custom really is to study from the oral Torah or from Kabbalah and Chassidut. Sfardim have the custom, together with Chabad, that we don't study Torah as much as we read Torah. And what does that mean? There's a special book called Tikkun Leil Shavuot, and the Tikkun Leil Shavuot has the entire 5 books of Moshe, meaning the Chumash, the first beginning and end of each parsha. Then it goes through the additional 19 books of the written Torah. It has the first and last chapter of each of the 19 books. Then it goes through the Mishnah, which represents the oral Torah, and each Masechta, each section of the Mishnah, it has the beginning and the end. Then it goes through some Zohar, again, beginning and end. And by doing this, you sort of cover the entire Torah. So people read it. You read it quickly. You don't study it in depth. That is the Sephardic custom, and that is the Chabad custom. However, in most Chabad shuls, and today in most Sephardic shuls, because that's not necessarily enticing to people to enjoy, they wind up studying other things as well. But that's the real custom. That's the proper custom for Chabad and Sephardim. And many Hasidic groups as well follow this custom. Okay, that's staying up all night. Here we will have an all-night study session with a barbecue. So if anybody wants some midnight barbecue, it's going to happen here starting at midnight. For many years, we've had it together with the presidential, but since they moved the tent, it's a little far for some of the people, so we're going to stay here.
Yeah.
That's custom number 2. Custom number 3 is eating dairy. The custom has gotten completely out of hand. I'm sorry to be the what's it called? The killjoy, the one who's
But on like Friday lunch?
here is the real custom, and this is the custom that has been the custom for hundreds of years. It's not a very old custom. It's not thousands of years that I know of. It's hundreds of years. The custom was to eat some dairy product on Friday morning,
So no Friday lunch?
not a whole lunch. That is an exaggeration of the custom. As a matter of fact, it's very important to eat meat at a holiday meal.
Okay.
You do you. I'm not. Don't
No,
do
but
what you want to do.
I thought that I don't know.
So let me explain. Let me explain. So the proper custom and the way it always was is that you eat some dairy. Some people do it for breakfast, and that's the end of it, before prayers. Some people will eat right after prayers, make kiddush, eat a cheese bureka, or some cheesecake, because if you don't have cheesecake on Shavuot, there's no way you could possibly receive the Torah. Okay, or something.
Is that true?
No, it's not true at all. It's purely cynical. That was my cynicism.
But I don't know why
Okay, I'll explain in a second. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. So, because delicious.
there.
Um,
Wow.
there's actually at least 35, 40 reasons, but there's 3 or 4 main reasons. Um, and the way I think it should be done is um, right after shul. If you go home, fine. If you do it in shul, fine. You have a very light dairy meal with not even a proper meal, a light dairy
Snack.
snack. Maybe, and this there's debate about, maybe you should wash and have hamotzi at that snack, maybe not. Then you wait an hour and you have your proper Yom Tov meal with meat. That is the correct way to do it.
Why?
Why do we have dairy? There's at least, I like to joke that among the great rabbis, this was the sport, was finding reasons for eating dairy on Shavuot. So there's lists, 20, 30 reasons long. Um, some of the basic reasons is that the Torah is compared to milk, because just like a mother's milk has within it all of the nutrients that are necessary for a baby, so too the Torah has within it everything that is necessary for a Jew, period. Another reason is that the color white in Kabbalah represents purity. And the Jewish people went from Tum'ah, which was a negativity of Egypt, to the purity of Torah. Another reason is, and this is one of the primary reasons that's brought down in Jewish law, is that just like on Pesach, we have 2 cooked foods on our Seder plate to represent the 2 sacrifices that were brought. Likewise, on Shavuot, we have 2 meals to represent 2 sacrifices that were brought on Shavuot. What are the 2 sacrifices? One is the same as on Pesach, which was the holiday sacrifice, and that would be your meat meal. The other was what's called the shtei halechem, the 2 special breads that were brought only on Shavuot. And to represent the shtei halechem, we have the 2 meals, a dairy meal and a meat meal. It's gotten completely out of hand. Number one is that people think that Shavuot is only about dairy. Okay, which sure there's a relationship to dairy, but Shavuot's not about dairy, it's about Torah. Okay, it's not about cheesecake, it's about receiving the Torah. It also has gotten out of hand in the sense that people forget that there's a proper mitzvah to eat meat at each of the holiday meals, and instead they make a completely dairy meal. It's this. I looked a little bit. I haven't looked in depth. I looked a little bit to find if any custom anywhere that's mentioned is to have only a dairy meal, and I couldn't find one place yet. Maybe it exists, but I haven't found it. It's modern, as far as I know. Modern meaning in the past 30, 40 years, that people took the original custom of having some dairy and turned it into a balagan, where it's not only a meal, but it's the whole purpose of Shavuot. On the other hand, enjoy it. It's holiday and enjoy it. Have a good time.
That when Jewish community received the people received not the Jewish community because we weren't Jewish,
Right.
but when
When we became Jewish,
became Jewish
right?
and received the Torah and received the commandments, one of the commandments, of course, wasn't to like mix meat and dairy. So the woman, what they did is like they did this beautiful festive whatever dairy meal.
Okay.
And that's the cost. That's why the custom.
You're not wrong. That's another one of the reasons that's brought down. It's a little different than you said, which is that the reason is that they received the Torah on Shabbat. The day of the receiving the Torah was on a Shabbat. So they got the law that you can't have kosher, as you say. But now all of their cooking utensils are not kosher, and since it's Shabbat, they can't make them kosher. So all they could do, but I don't understand that. All they could do was have a dairy meal, which doesn't require cooking. You're able to just serve it as is. So that's correct. The only thing is, my question is on Shabbat you can't cook anyhow.
Why they didn't eat the food from Shabbat?
So the only thing I could say is that had they cooked on Shabbat, had they cooked before Shabbat, um, then maybe the meal that they cooked wasn't kosher anyhow either. So they would have had to throw it away. I don't know. I don't understand that answer so well, but it's correct. This is brought down. It's a correct answer. Okay, good. Anyhow, that's the next custom. The last custom, I said 5. I only said 4 customs so far, though. This fourth one. The fourth custom is to read the book of Ruth.
Maybe they cooked only for Shabbat dinner and they didn't know they had to like
No,
cook.
but even if you cooked for Shabbat dinner, you cooked it in not kosher vessels. So they would have had to throw it away anyhow. And then you couldn't cook on Shabbat.
So
So it's
why
not
did
only about
so
the.
why didn't they have the dinner, the dairy dinner? That's your
I know. I'm just saying that. Why are we blaming it on the milk and meat issue, or why are we blaming it on not being able to make your vessels kosher issue? Blame it on the fact you can't cook on Shabbat,
okay.
and you can't cook on Shabbat, and you are. I don't know. I don't
Yes.
exactly get it.
The Jewish people already
Knew about Shabbat.
knew about the Ten Commandments. O sea, like we knew, but it wasn't like a
Also a good question, and I don't have a good answer. In other words, some of these things were well known already, but they hadn't received it as a requirement yet.
exactly.
Right.
Was
Right. Yeah, good question. Good question. Anyhow, the last one that I want to mention, there's a fifth one. It's not slipping my mind at the moment. Yeah, I know the fifth one. The fourth one is to read the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is one of the. Um, hey, look who's here! The book of Ruth is one of the books of the Torah, of the written Torah, not of the Chumash, not of the 5 books of Moses, but of the written Torah, meaning to say it's part of what's called Ketuvim. The written Torah is Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. It's part of the Ketuvim. And there's various reasons that it's read. One of the reasons is that King David was born and passed away on Shavuot. And Ruth is the great grandmother of King David.
okay. And that was the King David was born.
And passed away in Shavuot. Also, just by the way, the Baal Shem Tov passed away in Shavuot. So there's all different special meanings to that as well. Another reason is that just as the Jewish people, as you just mentioned, finished becoming the Jewish people in Shavuot. In other words, there's a process of becoming the Jewish people. Part of the process was going to just like a convert. A convert goes to the mikvah, gets a brit milah if he's a male, brings a sacrifice, and receives the Torah, accepts upon himself the Torah. These are the steps of becoming a convert. So too, the Jewish people concluded this process by receiving the Torah. Ruth is the ultimate convert. So we read her story to acknowledge that, etc. And the fifth custom of Shavuot is to put flowers or even complete trees in the shul. To decorate the shul with flowers or trees, and this has to do with representing the flowers and the trees that grew on Mount Sinai, which was a desert mountain, but grew on Mount Sinai when Hashem gave us the Torah. It also has to do with the fact that Hashem judges the trees on Shavuot. However, Chabad custom is not to do this. In Chabad shuls, we do not put up flowers and trees, and there's reasons for this. Okay, let's jump into the text. That's the Shavuot teaching. It was a little longer than expected, but we'll jump into the text. We are on chapter 7. Okay, let's do this. Chapter 7 and 8. The end of chapter 7. Okay. Chapter 7 is speaking about, what is it called? About Klipas Noga. Chapter 8 is speaking about Shalosh Klipot HaTameot. Klipas Noga is the klipa that can be elevated. Shalosh klipot tameot are the klipot that cannot be elevated. Both of them, chapter 7 and chapter 8, were on page 118, if I remember correctly. Deal with both the conceptual idea that of the klipa that can be. She can hurt herself on this. Okay. Both on the what's it called? The conceptual idea of the shalosh klip of what these klipot represent, but they also deal with the practical idea of what happens when you get involved in these klipot.
We have a lot of distraction in this.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm distracted too. So, yeah. What were you gonna ask? Yeah, you're gonna ask something. No?
I'm a little.
Lost on the whole picture. We're discussing first of all the we spoke about the Jew has two souls. One soul is a godly soul, the other soul is the animal soul. The animal soul has its source from klipa. Klipa are the coverings over Hashem that allow the world to exist in such a way that we don't see Hashem. But there's two kinds of klipot. There's the klipot that are always covering Hashem and can never you can never discover Hashem through these klipot. And then you have the klipot that cover Hashem normally, but you can break the klipot, or not only break them, you can see through the klipot and find Hashem even in that space. That's a very general sense. Chapter 7 is about the second kind, the klipot that where we can discover Hashem even within those klipot. In a very simple sense, this means basic human needs: food. Forget not only basic human needs, basic human nature. However, not to make a controversial statement, but it's written in the Tanya specifically for a Jew. For a non-Jew, it's shalosh klipot tameot, human nature.
Which they will never discover Hashem.
Okay, I don't want to say that because non-Jews can discover Hashem, but not through their human nature.
Okay.
Right, not through their basic nature. Again, that's a big conversation.
Klipa Noga is on the human nature.
Klipas Noga, I'm using the word. It's not only human nature. Jewish human nature comes from Klipas Noga, but not all Klipas Noga is Jewish human nature. We said it's in three worlds. It's in the plant world. Almost everything in the plant world is Klipas Noga. In the animal world, almost everything in the animal world is Shalosh Klipos Utameos, because almost all animals and almost all fish and almost all birds, you cannot eat it and make it kosher. If you look at the grand amount of animal life on planet Earth, I'm making up numbers. I have no idea. 95% of it is not kosher. So that will all be from Shalosh Klipos Utameos. The 5% of animal life that is kosher, or fish life, there's more fish life that's kosher than animal, but whatever, that's another point, is from Klipas Noga. Plant life, almost all of it is kosher. There's only a small percentage that's not kosher. In the inanimate objects, 99% of it's kosher. In other words, most of Earth is Klipas Noga, because it can be used and elevated to serve Hashem.
Klipas Noga can be used to elevate Hashem.
To be elevated and to serve Hashem.
Which is all the food, all the plants, all the...
That's kosher.
That is kosher.
So that's what I'm saying. In the mineral world, it's almost everything. In the plant world, it's also almost everything. In the animal world, it starts to change. It's only a small percentage. And then when we come to the human world, it's only Jewish people and certain non-Jews. No entendiste.
It's been long.
Yeah.
No, te explico esto rápido, esta partecita. Clipanoga es todo lo que se refiere a que puede servirle a Dios. Entonces, el mundo mineral, todo le puede servir a Dios. Las plantas, la mayoría de las plantas solo puede servir a Dios. Los animales no. O sea, no puedes elevar los animales, todos los animales para servirle a Dios, porque obviamente hay animales no kosher, ¿no?
Exacto.
Y y las personas se refiere al Jewish world, porque son las personas como que están destinadas para elevar
El
todas
mundo.
estas cosas a Dios. O sea, pero tú te tomas algo, dices una braja, estás elevando lo que te estás tomando para Dios, pero una persona que no es judía, en este caso no se refiere a eso porque no puede tomarse un drink para elevar.
While we are talking about the animals.
We call all of this the animal soul. That's his name for it. I call it human nature, but he calls it the animal soul.
This one, the
Yeah. No, it comes from Klipas Noga. In addition, even in a Jew, this is the last point we'll make on Klipas Noga. In a Jew, it includes all thought, speech, and deed that is not directly for serving Hashem.
Okay. But that I understand something. If in a Jew comes all the speech, thought, and deed that it doesn't come to serve Hashem, but Klipanoga is where you discover Hashem.
Okay, I made one mistake. All thought, yes, very good question. Perceptive. All thought and speech and deed that does not serve Hashem, but is not prohibited.
Okay.
Okay. If it is thought, speech, and deed that is against the Torah, meaning lashon hara, thinking bad about other people, maybe certain sexual thoughts that could be against the Torah. Now, all of that is in Shalosh Klipos Atameos. However, if you just randomly, I don't know, thinking about the tree outside, it's Klipas Noga. Now, thinking about a tree outside could be used to serve Hashem, but you're not necessarily doing it for that reason. You're just having a conversation. Now, again, everything that you do, as long as it's not against the Torah, could be used to serve Hashem. So that's why that all fits in the world of Klipas Noga. The question is, are you doing it to serve Hashem? Right. That's right. That's right. Right. Could be. Could be. But breathwork is more complicated because it may have its source. I'm not pretending to be an expert. It may have its source in Shalosh Klipos Atameos. It may come directly from idolatry. If it comes from idolatry, then it's not elevatable. Okay, so we're going to conclude this chapter on Klipas Noga. This is the chapter about Klipas Noga. Both this chapter and chapter 8 are going to not only describe the basic theory, which is what we just finished describing now, but it's going to describe what happens when you interact with them. If you interact with Klipas Noga, there's one set of results. If you interact with Shalosh Klipas Atameos, there's another set of results. They're not positive. Klipos, klipot in there's no right way to write it.
Exactly.
However you want. Okay, let's go to page 118. And I also want to pick up the pace because I'd like that even though we don't have to have a summer vacation, but I know a lot of people are traveling, I'd like to have by summer vacation that we finish this first part that I told you was just the theory. And then that way, when we come back from summer vacation, we can go into the practice a little bit. Okay, so we're going to have to pick up the pace in order to do that. Okay. I didn't do a good job of picking up the pace today. Page 118. We started this a little bit, but let's roll quickly. Ach, mishu bezoyli basar v'soyve yayin l'malis tavis guver v'nafshe bahamis shubichinis yisoyda mayim me'arbi yisoyda saroyim sheba mimenu midas hatayva. However, a person who eats like a glutton, thank you. You know what a glutton is? En español también usan la palabra. Glutton. And he's only eating for the purpose of pleasure. We call them foodies. I'm sorry, Mrs. Rosenberg, I had to take the stab there. Foodies. And it's all about pleasure. Continue on the next part, 118. At that point, the energy that gives the meat the ability to exist and the wine, that energy is taken out of the possibility of serving Hashem and drawn down into the Shalosh Klippas Tameos. Because you took something that was able to be used to serve Hashem and you put it into the negative world because it was all about you. Okay, so you enjoy a nice steak at our midnight barbecue. We're going to have very delicious steaks. And you got all excited about the steak. And maybe you even said a bracha, I'm sorry to say so. Maybe you even said a bracha, because otherwise it's for sure prohibited. So you made a bracha, but it was all about the steak. It was not about. Slow down. I'm not going to have this debate again today. Okay. It's all about the steak. Then who are you serving?
Yourself.
And the steak, the steak and yourself. She's right. You're serving, it's all about you. It's all about my pleasure. It's all about what makes me feel good. If it's all about me feeling good, did I think about Hashem? No, I forgot about Hashem. So I took what was possible to elevate and I drew it down. That's the problem. And it remains in the negative space, not in the positive space. However, this is only temporary. Because even though I brought it into the negative space, I'm still able to elevate it, as we're about to see. But that's only in the world of Klippas Noga. Okay? V'gufa naisalahen levusha merkava. And not only that, even worse than that, you made your own body become the chariot, become the vehicle for this negativity. Therefore, lefisha, temporarily. Until you turn back towards the service of Hashem. At which point your body, not necessarily the food that you ate, maybe, that's debatable, but your body now goes back to being a vehicle for Hashem instead of a vehicle for eating steak.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So una vez que te lo comiste, you said the bracha. It wasn't the intention of, right? But then you can turn it around. How?
Okay. Well, your body you could turn around on a dime. Instantly. That's an expression. You could turn it around instantly. How? Go back to serving Hashem. Game over. So your body will no longer be a vehicle for steak eating and is now a vehicle for Hashem serving. However, what about the effect of the food that you ate for the wrong reason? That's what we're going to read right now. But we're not complete. Don't worry. It's going to sound a little negative, then we're going to have some positivity. Page 119. Since even the wine and the meat that you ate were permissible, then when you turn back to Hashem, they can also turn back to Hashem. Because that meat and wine became part of you. And since you turned your boat back in the right direction, Now they go back in the right direction. However, we're not done with it. It's still problematic. You'll see in a minute. Shazeu lashon heter, and this is what it literally what it means. Kosher meat is called heter, meat which is mutar. Mutar in Hebrew literally means untied. So the meat which was ingested, even for the wrong reason, remains untied. And therefore, you can bring it with you when you go back to serving Hashem. Does that make sense? I know that's like a lot of words. So like a lot of salad, word salad. I feel
But
like what's her name?
saying, like, if you, of course, if you do the bracha and you're like, this is food is for serving Hashem, then that's the way to do it.
Okay, let's look at the perfect world. The perfect world is I want to go study Torah. I know I need some food in order to study Torah. I go sit down, I make a bracha, I eat whatever I need to eat, and I serve Hashem.
Perfect.
Perfect world.
Perfect.
Well,
And
then there's another version of this. Yeah.
Worst is like I don't go to shul to study or whatever, and I eat
Not kosher.
non kosher, and I don't say the bracha.
That's the worst end of
That's
it.
the worst.
Okay, that's the best and the worst.
Exactly.
Now let's look at the stuff in the middle. Right. Okay, now even but I just want to say, even in the best could fit eating a nice steak. Why? As long as the reason you're eating the steak is because it opens your mind and it makes you feel relaxed and it makes you able to study Torah.
Yeah.
That's even the enjoyment of the steak can be part of the best scenario.
Yeah.
Or Hindi wants to say, if you eat it on Shabbos or Yom Tov, which I'm not completely agreeing and not completely disagreeing. Okay, that's all in the best world.
Yeah.
Now, what about if you make a bracha and you eat a steak, but the only reason you're eating a steak is because you're a foodie and you love steak?
Okay, not for another person.
That's the reason you're eating it. That's the part we're dealing with now. And we're telling you that if you eat steak just to eat steak because it's delicious, I know this is a very male thing. I know girls like steak, ladies like steak too, but what do you really like? Like what? The quinoa salad. Okay.
Sushi.
Sushi. There you go. That's sushi. I'm just kidding. But you're eating it purely for the purpose of the flavor. Um, so while you're eating it, you brought it completely to the negative side. But you're able to turn that boat around pretty quickly.
What about like forgetting Shavuot and so that you eat because you need food to survive and also to like serve Hashem in other ways, not in that moment, but like like having lunch every day, having lunch. Then
Having lunch every day is a perfect example. Because having lunch every day, even just for the purpose of staying alive, is not necessarily for the purpose of serving Hashem. But it can easily be for the purpose of serving Hashem.
okay.
And that's completely in your mind and in your heart. In other words, you could say, I know that I need to serve Hashem, and I know to serve Hashem I have to be healthy, and I know in order to be healthy I need to eat, and I need to eat good food, and I need to eat proper amounts, not just like a whatever. Then 100% serving Hashem, 100%, not 80%. It's 100% serving Hashem. On the other hand, if you're hungry and you sit down to eat and you make a bracha, you're still not serving Hashem. You're serving yourself. You're serving your hunger. I'm not saying this is easy, and I'm not telling you where I sit on this game
To know that everything that you do eat
to serve Hashem.
is to serve, even if you do the bracha, when you do it, it's like I'm doing the bracha and I'm eating just to serve Hashem.
That's correct.
That's the only thing.
It's the intention entirely. In the world of Klipas Noga, in the world of Shalosh Klipas Tameos, intention doesn't matter.
Yeah, because it's prohibited.
Because it's prohibited.
Right. If you're
You can eat like an non-kosher steak and say this is to serve
That's going to be
Hashem.
in the next
No.
chapter. It's going to speak about that directly.
Yeah.
Okay. But now let's talk about the effect So if you were involved in klipas noga for the negative reasons, there's two effects to consider. One effect is that'll go off in a second.
Okay.
This is
The alarm.
the ADD class today.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's going off. It's going to go off in a second. Yeah. One effect is the effect on the food itself. You took it and you put it into the negative. How do you put it in the negative? Because you ate it for the wrong reason. That's easily fixed. Go back and serve Hashem. So you took your body and you stopped being selfish and you went back to your job, serving Hashem. Easy. However, there is still a long-term effect. And that's what we're about to read right now. However, I'm sorry, just one last thing. In distinction to eating something which is prohibited, eating something which is prohibited, the Hebrew word is asur. Asur means tied. You can never elevate that, with one extreme exception. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Something which is mutar, which is untied, even if you ate it for the wrong reason, can be redirected. Something which is asur, which is tied up, can never be redirected. Almost never. Got it?
Mhm.
However, even once you've redirected it, which is what you should do, there's still a problem. There's a long-term effect of the involvement in physicality purely for the purpose of
Serving
pleasure.
yourself.
Right. And what is that? Page 119, very near the bottom. There is an everlasting imprint on your body. And therefore, page 120, and therefore the body has to decompose. I think we read this all once.
Yeah.
Yo también creo, yeah.
Sí, yo
Yeah.
también creo.
And I wanted to finish this chapter, so we're going to go in top speed. And I think this is where we got up to. Likewise, the life, the vitality that exists in a drop of semen that comes out when your entire purpose is pleasure. That you did not have divine intentions at all when you were having relations with your wife who is tahor, who has gone to the mikvah. Because if it's not your wife, shalosh klippos is automatically. If she has not gone to the mikvah, shalosh klippos automatically. So we're saying in a permissible sexual relation, but it was entirely for the purpose of your personal pleasure. Same problem. So it's the world of klipas noga, but you took something which could be elevated and you brought it into entirely animal. That's why we use the word animal soul. You're not no different, but essentially no different than a dog. Okay, you just went purely into the animal world. That's what we call the animal soul.
It's crazy how Hashem takes a, 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 a godly piece of him and sticks it into
Animal.
and sticks it into a body, and yet wants you to superdad that whole body and use the body, because when you use the body, that's when you can actually do a mitzvah.
That's exactly correct.
It's like
That's the game that we're playing.
such a difficult game.
Yes, that's right.
So we're trying to be godly in an animal body.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it interesting. To be an angel in the world of angels,
Easy.
it's not interesting. What makes it interesting, it's not even the challenge. The challenge is also true. It's taking what seems to deny Hashem and bring even that to serve Hashem. It's not just the fact that it's a challenge. It's the fact that by its nature, it doesn't want to, it's all about me. And using that power of the nature to serve Hashem. That's the interesting part in this conversation.
And only
That's where the fun
actually,
happens.
actually,
That's right.
the whole purpose of all the change
All of
creation
creation.
is only for that.
Yeah. Can we go quickly? I doubt it. Okay. Masha Ein Kain, let's go down to 120. Now we're going to say the bottom 120. Now we're going to contrast that with purely prohibited things. Masha Ein Kain Machalos Asuris. Not so when you're eating not kosher food, ubiyos asuris, or you're having not kosher sexual relations. They are completely from the three negative klipot. They are always and completely tied down to the negative side. Page 121.
If you want to play the game,
You
you can only do it if you're playing with the things that Hashem
allows us.
open.
That's right. The only time that those things can ever become elevated is when Mashiach comes. And then the whole world is changing, that everything is going to be able to recognize Hashem.
Even no kosher.
Even not kosher. That's why it says that pigs will become not kosher, will become kosher when Mashiach comes. I don't know if it's exactly true in that sense. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But that's the theory behind it. Oi, and there's another way that you can elevate even the shalosh klipos of tameos that you've interacted with. Or if you do such a high level of teshuva, not regular teshuva, where you say, I'm no longer going to eat not kosher. That's regular teshuva. But you do such a high level of teshuva that even the sins that you did become positive. It's a very high level of teshuva, not to be discussed right now because I want to finish the chapter. So if you can hit that high level of teshuva, even before Mashiach comes, you can take your negative, your absolute negative, and turn it into positive. And that he describes what that tshuva looks like, that you've gone to a very, very high level of love for Hashem, where all you want is Hashem. It's a very high level of love for Hashem. Page 122. You can get to the point where you thirst for Hashem even more than a tzaddik thirsts for Hashem. What makes the difference, as we're going to learn later, between a tzaddik and a beinoni is what his love for Hashem looks like. A beinoni loves Hashem, and a tzaddik has an affair with Hashem. Why is it horrible?
It's a bad connotation.
I know, I think it's exactly correct.
No.
It's actually
Just passionately.
has an affair. It's actually the exact language of the Rambam. And you missed the end. Okay, you'll catch up if you want to. Okay, let's read quickly. This is actually we got up to. And since this Baal Teshuvah, who is thirsting for Hashem in a passionate way, even greater than a tzaddik thirsts for Hashem, the reason that he thirsts for Hashem is because he's in such a negative space that allows for the negativity that he was involved in to be elevated as part of his service of Hashem. Page 123. However, a regular teshuva that Hashem forgives him, but it doesn't lead to this level of love for Hashem. It's a proper teshuva, and Hashem loves him, and Hashem forgives him. But the impact of his sin doesn't get erased. It's erased from him that he's no longer a sinner, but he still has the impact somehow within him or within the world. And this is the one. Okay, let's just do it. It's 9:15. If you have to go, you can go. But I could do this in 5 minutes.
Okay.
If you have 5 minutes. You know what? We're just going to skip it. Yeah, I'll just tell you what it is externally. He refers to one other sexual behavior. There is. Okay, let's do again. We'll go to the extremes. There is the best sexual behavior, which is, and I don't know exactly what this means, but I'll use the words, which is where you have sexual relations for the purpose of serving Hashem. I don't know what that means, but let's pretend such a thing exists. And not pretend, it exists.
The mitzvah.
I'm not going to have this debate with you now, Mrs. Rosenberg, what it means. No, you're right, it is a mitzvah. What does that mean? Where is this? Okay. Then you have the other extreme, completely prohibited sexual relations. With an non-Jew, with your wife when she doesn't go to the mikvah, with somebody else's wife, completely prohibited. I'm speaking from a male perspective, obviously. Then you have kosher sex, but not necessarily for the holiest reasons. That's what we've been discussing until now. But there's one more topic, and that is, let's say for a male, I don't know how this applies even for a female, it may not. That's why I don't mind that we're not spending so much energy in it. When a male has an emission of semen without a female present, okay, masturbation.
Okay.
That's also prohibited. Is it worse or better than having sex with somebody you're not allowed to? And he suggests that there's, in some ways, worse, in some ways, better. And that's how he concludes this chapter. It's better in the sense that there's no receiver of this relationship. And if you have sexual relations with someone else's wife, for example, if there's a baby, you've brought into the world a real big problem, because it's a problem that's not going to go away. For example, that's not the only example, that's an example. In a spiritual sense, if there's a receiver, then the receiver now holds on to part of this intimacy in a way that is very problematic. So even if you do teshuvah, stuff is still exists in this world. Negative energy still exists in the world. However, if it's without a receiver, there's more of a way to cleanse it. On the other hand, in a certain way, it's considered even worse because it's purely wasteful. So that's how this chapter ends. Ultimately, what did we describe in this chapter, just to give a conclusion? That we've been really trying to understand what is this idea called klipas noga, and what is the effect of being involved in klipas noga. And the basic thing that we've said, and with this we can conclude, so even though you missed a lot, now I'm going to catch you up so that you're solidly with us. We could basically say that there's a large percentage of our interaction with the world, and a large percentage of the world is kosher, but not necessarily holy. And that's klipas noga. We should not be involved in things that are not holy. So we need to do is we need to be involved in things that are kosher and make them holy. That's what we want to do. So when we eat food, We want to eat food to serve Hashem. Even though eating food is just like a dog. But we can use it and use it in a holy way. And the same thing when in another very animal part of our life, sexual relations. It could be kosher, but not holy. What we want to do is we want to make it kosher and holy. And that's the world of Klipas Noga. Klipas Noga is kosher. Making it holy is our job. However, Shalosh Klipos Otameos, the three negative klipos, are not kosher and therefore can never be holy. And that's what we're going to read about in the next chapter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna run. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cindy, you
Come in.
brought the best companion.